Hello all. So I've been spending a lot of time with Business Central APIs. Thank you for your support. And today we'll talk about how you manage batch request with Business Central APIs. So just a quick recap. We started with the introduction of API. We understood different kind of authentication based on either you're on-prem or SaaS. We did learn how to set up OAuth and basic authentication for on-prem and OAuth for SaaS. Then we looked at the get. How do you get the data from using Business Central APIs? Then we learned about the filter properties. We learned about specially select, order, top buy, and then we delved into the expand. Then we went into the post, how you post records into Business Central using APIs. And in that, we also learned about the deep insert that we talked about. In the last video, we did talk about how you call bound actions in APIs. And this might be the last video in the post series, and then we'll move ahead to the other items, other HTTP requests that you have with APIs. And today's request will understand what a batch request in Business Central API is. Now let's understand why we are talking about it. So while calling Business Central API, you normally have seen till now that you do one operation at a time. Like you create a customer or you get a list of customers and then you choose a customer. And in future you will see other operations, right? For example, like we inserted a sales order, and then with the support of deep insert, it was possible to add headers and line together, where the possibility with the deep insert is that you can create multiple sales line in the sales order that you're creating. But think of a possible scenario where you will have to do multiple sales order creation or multiple customer creations in Business Central with a batch request. Now, what the batch request does, with this it is possible to combine multiple operation in one single request. The batch request is submitted as a single post request with the $batch endpoint, as you can see on the screen here. And then the body contain a set of operations. Maybe you want to do modify a record, maybe you want to insert a record, and maybe you would like to insert 5 different records. So all you can achieve all this using the $batch parameter. So that'll reduce how many queries you are making because it will be bundled together and sent together. So in this video, we'll talk about that, how you execute that, what are limits, what are different parameters of the $batch, and how you utilize it. So hope you are good. We understood why the batch is. Now let's get back into the demo and start understanding what a batch is. Okay, so let me open my Business Central, AL code, and here we are. I'm using again the on-prem, but just to kind of save some time. But all these commands, other than the base URL, you can use as it is in Business Central SaaS. And if you haven't watched the previous series, videos in the series, go back and check the API series in the YouTube channel. Okay, so let's utilize one of the requests that we already have. Let's utilize this one. What is this one? Okay, something. Now, for the batch, how it begins, let's understand this. So it typically begins with a request because we have to send multiple requests at the same time. We want to, let's say, insert 5 different customers at the same time. So they need to be a part of a JSON string, as we all know till now. And the two boxes here represent a JSON array. So if you have to make 5 requests, each of these requests will be part of this main element, which is called request. And then everything inside these two brackets will be treated as one single request. Now, what goes inside the single or in these square brackets is each request which need to have specific parameters. And what are those? Let's have a look. So each request that you're making need 5 different parameters. Out of them, 3 are mandatory and 2 are optional. The first one is the method, or you can have them in any order as you want. So the method is one of the standard HTTP method, which can be get, post, patch, put, delete. We'll learn about patch, put, and delete going forward. But that's just the first parameter that you need to define. What kind of request you are making? Are you trying to get something? Are you trying to post something? Till now we have learned this. Or are you trying to patch or put or delete something? So for that particular request, one single request, you need to identify what method you are calling. The ID is a unique identifier for this operation. You can use ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use it for anything that you need. But for the classification that this is a different request than the other one, you need to give it a unique identifier. The third one is an URL, which is the path of the API. And this can be a relative path, we'll see that, or it can be an absolute path, which means the exact path. In case of a uh, relative path replaces the $batch part in your request, and an absolute path replaces the complete URL of the batch request. And we'll see what that means once we get into it. The URL, that is the third or the last mandatory parameter, is can have $select, $filters that we have seen till now, or $expand and all. Now let's come to the optional part. The first optional part is header and the second is body. So header is optional, which lists what kind of headers you want, and it's again, because it's a JSON, it goes into a name value combination. So there are different parameters available in headers, like what kind of um, content type you want, like JSON or not. Would you like to get a written value, or you just want to see it as blank, right? Those kind of things you need to define in your header, and the body is actually the content that you only need if you are doing a post where you are adding something. So if you have noticed that during get there was no body, but while we are doing post, we need to define what we are posting, and that's why the body is optional. It depends on what kind of method you are using. If you are using a post, patch, or put, in those scenarios you need to define the body of the request that you're sending, and it's a JSON payload as we have seen till now. So you again define a name value combination for each field that you're passing to the body, and that's how it works. Hope that's clear, and I'm not confusing everyone at this point. And if I am, don't worry, we'll get it into Business Central or the Visual Studio Code to see how this is achieved. So to begin with, let's get the customers. Let's try to create 5 customers into the system, or 5 is more, maybe 2 customers at the same time. Okay, let's try doing get for customers so that we know what the payload should look like. And once I do a send, it should show me, okay, maybe I am doing it wrong. Customer, no. Okay, let me go back and see what a customer is called. It's called customers. Okay, maybe I was not clear about my cases that I need to specify here. So customers, let's get it. And it says invalid body. Why it says invalid body? Let me just remove the customers and see, can I get the companies? No. Okay, this is get. Sorry, my mistake. I'm just trying to get all the customers. So at this point, it shows me what the payload should look like if I'm trying to create a customer. Okay. So as we do all the time, let's keep this in our clipboard. Let me try to copy this. And for creating a single customer, what we need to do is we go to the body section and in here we type in the values of the field that we need, right? And we change this to post. That tells us that it is posting what entity, the customer entity, and what it need to create is this record. Now let's do a cleanup, remove the fields that we don't need for the demo. I'll keep it small so that we don't waste much time into it. Let's keep it pretty small. Then I can change things that I don't want. Okay. Okay. Okay, I don't need any of these. Let's see. Okay. Let's assume this is the value that I would like to pass to Business Central, and it will create a customer entity at this point. Let's beautify this. Okay. Now we are talking about a batch post. Now what changes in the batch post, and let me copy this because we'll need this here. What I'll need for this is I'll need just the base URL, which is my port number in case of on-prem BC220, API v2.0, and then maybe, and this is an option, that you have 5 companies and you want to create those customers in 5 different companies. So you have 5 customers which are going to 5 different companies, that's okay. Or you would like to create all of them in one company, then you can keep this part, but I'm removing this at this moment, and I'm replacing this with a parameter called $batch. Okay, so I'm saying do something with a batch syntax, but what I need to do will be defined here. So if you remember what I showed you in the slide earlier, that it always starts with a keyword called requests, and request is an array of element that you would like to add. Now let's try identifying each and every element of this array. So first we want to do the first request, and that I'll start with my ID. My ID is, let's say, 1. Let's keep it as simple. My method that I'm using is post. So I'm trying to post something. Then my URL, which is my third parameter, mandatory parameter, will be the companies that I want to create it, which is here. So I'll copy this, and then at the end I'll just copy everything like this. So this becomes my URL. What will happen, if you remember that slide deck where we were getting a little bit confused about the description of what a URL is, I guess this will clarify you that. So if you are using a relative path, which we are using right now, the $batch part of the base URL will replace that. So what will happen when we try doing the $batch here? This will be replaced for each request by this part, which converts it to the whole string. So this string will remain as it is, and then after here it'll add this. Hope that makes sense. If not, let me know into the comment section and we'll talk about it in detail. Now if you are using sales order, you can do a sales order here and then expand and other things if you want to have them, right? Let's talk about the optional parameters right now. The first one is headers. In the headers, if you remember the description, we need to give it as an array, and the array is of the same type, which is, let's say, content type. I would like to get the content type as application/JSON, so I'll get the response in my JSON format if everything goes good. And if you have other options that you would like to set, go ahead, you can do that. That's not a problem. You can read about what headers OData support, and then based on that you can set different one. Now for the ID 1, where I'm doing a post of a customer entity, I would like to set a body. Where is my body? Here is my body. Okay, let's tweak this for our need. Okay, let me beautify this so that it looks good. In this, I'm saying the display name is, and there is no name. Maybe let's try that. Batch 1. My address is Dehradun. Country is US. Let's keep it as it is. And this is my batch 1 at the rate demo.com. And let's keep the salesperson as it is, right? Let's, before we get into it, let me open my business central and we'll make sure that I don't have a customers, or I don't have the set of customers which I'm trying to create in my business central environment. So here is my business central environment. Let me drag that in and let's look into the customers entity. Okay, once we come here, it should show me all the customers, and I don't think I have anyone with the email batch. So let me filter on this. Okay, limit filter by, filter on email, and the email is at the rate of star batch. So I'm just looking for anyone who have an email address as batch. There's none at this moment. Okay. Now, if I have to create another customer, and let me clean this up now because the work is done for this. What I can do is I just need to copy the whole request, which is this, and then add a comma here because this is my another request, and paste it here. Okay, let's beautify this so that it looks good. And in the same case, I say 2 and the batch number 2 and batch 2. Okay, if you have to create another one, you just need to append a comma and then just append 3 in this case, and this becomes batch 3 and this becomes batch 3. So what I'm doing on this batch request is I'm creating 3 customers on this company. For every time I have the static URL, and if that's the case, you can just replace this here, and that way it'll kind of treat it as a batch, right? But in this case, for each request, the dollar batch will be replaced with the string that you have in URL, and then I'm passing the body as batch 1, and then as batch 2, and as batch 3. So if I'm correct at this moment, it should create 3 customers in my business center environment. So let's hit send and see what happens. Okay, I did hit send. It says status 200. Okay, let's come up and let's see what it did. It said I have created a customer, and in the body it said here is your customer C0020 with all the details that you have mentioned. Let's collapse this. The second ID that you have passed is this. If you look at it, it'll show you the whole URL at this point, and then it says C0030 and so on and so forth, C0040. But let's go back in Business Central and see what actually happened. So if I remove this and then apply this again, I should see that there are 3 customers created, batch 1, batch 2 and batch 3, with the display name as changed and the email address specified. So batch 1 demo, this one becomes batch 2 demo, and this one becomes batch 3 demo. You might be like at this point, makes sense, but in that case, why should I define my URL here rather than just putting it here? And that's possible if you are doing it on the same entity or if you are doing it on the same company. So if I'm doing it for the same company, I can just cut this from each request and place it here. And let's see that maybe somewhere else. And you can give it a try otherwise, right? Or let's do that. Let me cut this from here. And sorry, let me cut it from here to here. I'm just keeping customer, even if it is not mandatory. I'm just keeping it here, right? I'm using customers. So what will happen now is the dollar batch will be replaced with the customer, whatever the part of URL is. So this will be replaced with the customer's word. And I'll change it to 3. Oh, I already done 3. So let's do a 4, 4, same here because I'm doing the same thing. Otherwise this URL will become incorrect. And then 5 and 5. Same way here. Let's cut this and make it 6. This one also 6. And we should be good at this moment. Let's do a beautify and let's try doing the post. Here status not found. Okay, what is not found? Nothing was found at dollar batch. Why it did not replace the dollar batch parameter? It should, if I'm not wrong. Okay, it is not able to append it. Okay. Um, so that means I can't partially pass that in. Maybe that's a learning for me, but let's give it a try. I'll just keep it empty and try pasting it here directly if I'm doing everything on the customers. Will that work? Let's have a look. It's mandatory, so I'll have to define this as empty. And let me try sending it now. Bad request. What is the bad request part? Invalid request body, correlation ID, this. Okay, so that means I'll have to go back and cut this. And this is a new learning for me because I thought it should work. I'll just keep it as it. Let me try doing dollar batch at the end. Let's try. Does it work or not? Internal server error. Okay. Formatter was not defined the URL responses. Okay. So if I'm not wrong, and if you know the response of it, just let me know because I am also learning it with you guys. So just keep it as it is and then replace it here in the URLs. Okay. Okay. And okay. This is send. Okay. This is the status. Okay. So I'll have to recheck what you can replace the dollar batch with. But this will create those 3 customers that you have requested and those will now be available in my business central environment. So let me go back, try to refresh the filter and see what happens. Okay, it did not. Removed it. Okay, removed it, and now come back and it should show me the 3 new customers that just got created. Okay, so understand it from this example. If you have to create 20 different sales order from an external system in Business Central, you can actually do those creations with the batch post as we just saw. You can just pass the header of the sales error as well as the body of the sales order and the sales line that's needed. And with these 5 parameters, 3 being mandatory, 2 being optional, you can just achieve multiple type of requests to your business central at the same time rather than doing each of them individually. Now, when you are talking about batch, is there a limit? And there is. So at this moment, there are 100 batch individual queries that you can send in a batch. So if the external entity is sending up to 99 queries more or less, because 100 is the limit, you will have to split. If there are more than 100, you'll have to split them into multiple batches, and a batch of 100 or 99 will be accepted when you do a batch request. So hopefully that makes sense, that how you utilize the batch parameter. Now what we are going to do is, as we do all the time, we'll just understand it in the summary what we learned today. Okay, let's quickly cover what we have learned. So the first thing, with the batch request, it is possible to combine multiple operations at the same time with the request and picture. The batch request is submitted as a single HTTP post request to $batch endpoint uh, of the API that you're calling to do certain set of operations. The format that it is support is your base URL and then API version 2.0 batch. And the maximum number of operation that you can do in a OData $batch request is limited to 100. And there are 5 parameters, out of them 3 are mandatory and 2 are optional, where you can define the method type, the ID, the unique identifier, the URL, and the header and body. So hopefully you understand what a batch request is all about in Business Central APIs. Now, if you like the content about this particular request and the batch, do hit the like button. If you think that others will be benefited with it in the community, I'd highly encourage you to share the video on your social media accounts. And if you're new, this is my personal request. Please do subscribe to the channel. That helps us to grow and understand how we are doing and what kind of content is being liked by different community members. Now with this particular video, we completed more or less the get and the post. Now in the future videos, we'll still stick to the base Microsoft standard APIs and see what else HTTP requests are available. Once we cover that, we'll get into the custom APIs, that how you create them, what options you have, what things you need to keep in mind, and how you consume them. So if you have any questions, it's a humble request, please add them into the comment section. I'm going to do a last Q&A once we complete the series. That'll help to cover all the questions. So let me know how you think about it, and I'll come back into the next video sooner than later. Thank you. Have a great day.